Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Jung on the line, and he's a founder and CEO over at Fibonacci Asset Management Global. And this interview is part of our iConnection series, where we bring you the best of those that attended and participated in iConnections in Miami. Jung, welcome to the show.
Hi, Adam. Great to be here.
All right, so I'm in LA. I understand you're in Singapore recording this, and our time zones are very different. I'm on the morning, you're on the night shift, right?
Yes, it's 11 p.m., so it's very
Fantastic.
dark.
Well, I definitely want to get into the work that you're doing over at Fibonacci Asset Management Global, and also talking about, being a Korean asset manager expanding into Singapore, what that looks like and what you're doing. But before we get started with that, you were at iConnections in Miami, and tell me a little bit more about the experience and about working with iConnections. Have you been to a conference or to one of their events like that in the past, or is this the first one? Like, maybe give me some of the history.
Yeah, so this Miami event that happened last month was our second iConnection event. The
Mm,
first one was in Singapore in November last year, and we had this huge venue in Marina Bay Sands Hotel,
mm,
and thousands of investors and fund managers like myself flocked together and talk about the market, talk about the opportunities. And
mm,
I did hear from Singapore that the iConnection Miami is the most fantastic conference. So, I mean, I flew 22 hours from Singapore to
mm,
Miami because there's no direct
mm-hmm,
flight. My colleague flew 25 hours, Singapore to Montreal to Miami.
mm,
And we were greeted by over 5,000 amazing, fantastic managers and the investors. And we had a great time there. They did a wonderful job lining up the investors, and we had over 30 meetings, and you barely see them on the street, right? Because they're coming
mm-hmm.
from New York, Paris, Istanbul, Hong Kong, Singapore. And it was just an amazing experience.
Mm. What do you think? So I love that you said this too, because that you've been to the Singapore one. This was actually my first one. So I just started covering this particular conference, but I've gone to other events in Singapore, F1 and, Milk and Global Conference and some other things that take place. I find myself out there starting. Last year was the first time I went, but why do you feel iConnections is maybe different or special? Like, what do you think makes it unique to other opportunities, we'll say?
So it's more structured. It's not like you eat what you kill environment.
Mm,
What they do is they will have regular cocktail meetings, cocktail events where you can just show up and deliver your business card with one hand holding a cocktail or wine.
mm-hmm,
But what iConnection does is that they actually analyze what kind of fund manager you are, and they also analyze the allocators and investors, and they use this AI-driven platform to make a match. It's like
mm,
Tinder.
mm-hmm,
And a manager can have a one-to-one meeting with a potential investor who is already being filtered. So there's a higher chance that the investor actually find it very interesting. And yeah, I mean, we had like 17 meetings per day
mm.
for 2 days. So that's the 34 meetings.
Wow.
And it was nonstop. So every 30 minutes, a new client. And what's fascinating is that they already know who we are. They
Mm-hmm.
already have some idea of how to work with us. And that just makes everyone's time spent very efficiently.
Mm. Man, that's wonderful. I love it. And this is the type of stories that I've been hearing and from the managers and the allocators is it's like they're busy back to back. You're not just wandering around like the what do you do? What do you do? Right? Like not starting at
Mhm.
like the you're not starting at the basics, right?
Right. And the worst thing that can happen is that the investor only invests in US or Europe, but your
Mm-hmm.
Asian manager focus on Asian market only. Then they're like, oh, why are we even having this meeting? But
Mm.
this AI tool effectively prevents the kinds of mishap.
That's amazing. Let's switch it up a bit here. I want to talk a little bit more about what you're doing over at Fibonacci Asset Management Global. Where do you want to start with this one? Like, I want to know more about the firm.
So my background is in global equities
Hmm.
with a Korea focus, but more recently I've been building a platform that connects capital across Korea, Singapore, Dubai, and other global markets, especially
Mm,
around tech AI and emerging opportunities. I mean, we're a fund manager. We have license in South Korea. We have license in Singapore. Now we're launching a third company in Dubai this year.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're building is a global investment platform connecting Asia, Middle East, and other regions such as US and Europe. And
Mm.
we want to bring institutional capital and high net worth capital into opportunities like AI, semiconductors, and next generation industries. Think of it as a bridging where capital is coming from and where the growth is actually happening.
Mm. Where do you see the opportunity here? I understand. I like the how you're mentioning like the expansion. Where do you see the real opportunity here going forward?
So, I mean, we had a very peaceful time for many decades, but things are turning quite intensive for the past 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, China has become a lot stronger and more influential in the global trade, and that's naturally causing this kind of tension between US and China. So we are having a polarized global trade market. And with that polarization also comes more frequent geopolitical risk and clashes. So, I mean, back in the past, in 19th and 20th centuries, Rothschild family will sort of diversify this kind of risk because banks all across Europe and
Mm-hmm.
the possibility of military conflict becomes higher and intense. What they actually did was interesting. They actually invested in a military complex as a hedge. And what we are seeing now is that this geopolitical tension is actually turning into actual violent events. We are seeing that in Russia, Ukraine, and now in Iran.
Mm.
So for us, the risk has doubled. However,
Mm-hmm.
we still we have the fiduciary duty to protect our clients' asset. So we are looking for ways to diversify it. And one of
Mm-hmm.
that is actually to increase our exposure in the defense companies. So we are now actively investing in defense stocks. And because we come from South Korea, we
Mm-hmm.
are increasing our exposure in South Korea defense.
Mm. And as you being a Korean asset manager, expanding into Singapore and UAE, I'm just curious on what this looks like in terms of like what are some of the challenges into expanding into those markets?
So, I mean, we had some initial success in Korea, which gave
Mm.
us the courage to come to Singapore. And when we set up the Singapore office, it was my first time visiting Singapore. I never been to
Wow.
Singapore before. I only
That's
had one friend who I met in London, and that's all I knew. So no network, obviously no clients.
you're brave, Jung.
Well, I mean, somebody has to start something, right? And you have to start
Yes.
somewhere, and everybody's like reluctant. Now,
Mm.
what happens is that once you settle down, you look around, you are very rare. There aren't many Korean managers here, so you kind of
Mm.
feel like you are a endangered species in this market.
Yeah.
And now you have to figure out how to build connections.
Hmm.
How on earth are we going to meet client when you know nothing? So that's how
Wow.
we started. And we knew one market only, which was South Korea.
Hmm.
And it happened to be underdog market in Asia for more than a decade. So a lot of people are saying, who invests in Korea? But
Mm.
we are saying, look, things are changing. If you look at Japan or India, they made a remarkable level up. The Nikkei index quadrupled in just a few years. India market is booming. So is Taiwan. So why not Korea? And
Mm.
here's the issue, because there's so few of us, so few Korean managers,
Hmm.
the investors here have nearly zero experience in investing Korean managers, and
Mm.
hence there's lack of confidence.
Hmm.
You ask around, and none of your friends invest in Korea hedge fund. So how are you
Hmm.
going to invest in Korea hedge fund? It takes a leap of faith. So
Mm.
a lot of my challenge was actually breaking the ice and telling them, look, this is a great opportunity because not many people are looking at it. It's not crowded, but Korea is, it has great companies like Samsung, Hyundai, LG. So how come you have no exposure in that? You should
Mm.
be allocated, you should be exposed to South Korea. And one by one, potential clients started test order, and they actually became the actual clients.
Wow, what a great story. So that takes you to now what was the story? I have to get the next one then. Okay, so that's a great Singapore story. So now going to UAE, what does that look like for you?
So UAE is very interesting. One of the reasons that I got hooked into UAE was that we were launching a project fund in Singapore. It was a tokenized fund. So
Mm,
there's a platform where they can tokenize your conventional traditional hedge fund,
mm-hmm,
and your fund is now listed in the token exchange. So a UK investor or US or Switzerland could
mm-hmm,
simply plug into your traditional hedge fund through token. Now,
mm,
the problem was that in Singapore, the digital asset is still taxed at 17%. It's not tax-free. If you
mm-hmm,
invest in equities or fixed income, it's tax-free, but not the digital asset. However, in Cayman and in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, if you have the same fund there and you invest there, the tax is zero. So
mm,
what happened is that we actually lost a mandate to a manager based in Dubai. And
mm-hmm,
then we are like, okay, this was such a fantastic progress, and we just lost it. Now, how do we fix it? Well,
mm,
there's only one way. You have to be there, and you have to set up a company there and launch a UAE domiciled fund that actually give you that 0% tax break.
mm-hmm,
And that's how I got hooked into it. And the more you look at it, very a fascinating market. There's just 100 plus hedge fund managers in Dubai, but there are over 1,000 family offices. So the
mm.
number of the institutional investors
Right.
are 10 times more than the number of managers.
Wow.
So it can be a very efficient place to raise capital. Also, 40%, about 40% of these family office assets, and including sovereign wealth fund, they actually invest in real estate within the Gulf region.
Mm,
So many family offices, they bring the capital here, they enjoy the 0% tax, and they do invest in Dubai hotel, Dubai condo, or buildings.
mm-hmm,
And we just had this massive conflict in Iran, and they are launching missiles and drones over Dubai sky.
mm,
Now, those investors feel that they should diversify away from having too much exposure in the GCC,
mm-hmm.
but they still want to keep the vehicle there because they also want to enjoy the 0% tax.
Of course.
So that means $1 trillion or more of these massive capital, it will exit from the real estate and it will be plugged into other markets like US, Europe, and Asia.
Mm,
So now you have a serious reason to be there because you have to be there so that you can facilitate the process,
mm-hmm,
so that you can take advantage of some of this exodus of capital,
mm-hmm.
and investor invest in you and you help them invest in AI, high tech, and emerging opportunities in Asia.
Yeah. Jung, this has been a lot of fun having you on the show today. I learned a lot. In this story, you made me laugh. You said when you moved to Singapore, it was like you were an endangered species. That's the funniest way to put it. I love it. I'm gonna remember that one. Next time I'm walking around and I know I'm the only one there. So if I covered my first event in Singapore last year, as I mentioned before, I'm like, well, so then I was an endangered species too. Wait a minute. That's so
Yes,
funny.
yes. And you just look around, there's nobody else but you.
It's true. Now that when you
Yeah.
said it, I could relate with the feeling, but I didn't have the words. You gave them to me.
But
Uh,
but you know what? You know where the value
hmm,
arise?
hmm,
The value arise from the scarcity.
yes.
So you actually want to be the only one of the kind.
Hmm. Yes. Love it. Jung, this has been great. How do so people, if somebody wants to follow up and if they want to learn more about Fibonacci Asset Management Global, how do they connect with your team?
So you can simply search me up in the LinkedIn,
Hmm.
and that's actually the most effective way. Just send me a message and we'll start a dialogue.
Wonderful. For everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put the link in the show notes so that you can just click on the link and connect with Jung over on LinkedIn. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So hit that subscribe or follow button. And Jung, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you very much.